Good morning, everyone. So today we'll complete our second unit. We finished our first part of the second unit here in this slide where we were discussing about what are the techniques of project planning. There are 10 techniques, majorly 10 techniques, which we'll discuss and which are within the scope of the syllabus we're going through. Performance evaluation and review technique, that is PERT, P-E-R-T, PERT, critical path method, that is CPM, brainstorming, work breakdown structures, Gantt chart, fishbone diagram, SMART goals, bar chart, arrow diagram method, and network analysis. So these are the 10 methods we'll discuss in detail in the coming slides. So let us move to the first method, which is performance evaluation and review technique, that is PERT method. A PERT, performance evaluation and review technique, PERT. PERT stands for performance evaluation and review technique. PERT charts are tools used to plan tasks with a project, making it easier to schedule and coordinate them. Coordinate team members accomplishing the work. Pert charts were created in the 1950s to help the manager in the creation of weapons and defense projects for the US Navy. The program or project evaluation review technique is a statistical tool used in a project management which was designed to analyze and represent the tasks involved in completing a given project. PERT is a method of analyzing the tasks involved in completing a given project, especially the time needed to complete each task and to identify the minimum time needed to complete the total project. So, what actually PERT is a combination of various activities which a project, it is actually, for example, let us consider a project X, and it consists of various activities A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, that way. So these are the from A to H, these are activities to be completed before the project X completes. So there has to be a sequence that A has to be done. The project starts with A, then it moves to B, then to C, then to D, then to E, then to F, then to G, then to H. So that is the natural flow of the project, and that is a flow of the project, and that has to be maintained. So we draw chart depicting which activity is to be done first and which is to done later to complete the project in a more efficient manner when it comes to time, and most effective manner when it comes to cost. So cost management and time management. So we'll discuss these things more in detail. You will understand about the PERT in detail. It incorporates uncertainty by making it possible to schedule a project while not knowing precisely the details and duration of all the activities. It is a more of an event-oriented technique rather than start and completion-oriented. So events are very important and is used more in these projects where time is a major factor rather than cost. It is applied on a very large scale, one time, complex, non routine infrastructure, and on research and development projects. So it is mainly related to projects. Look at this one example. For example, there's a project which starts with the activity 1 and it ends with the activity 10. Then there can be n number of ways where we can reach how we can reach to 10 from 1. So these are some of the ways in which we can pursue to 10. And so what we do is we draw these activities like diagram, and we draw these 50, 20, 40. These are number of days, the time taken to complete this task. So from event 1 to event 2, the 50 days it will take. Then from 2 to 3, 20 days it will take. From 3 to 6, 60 days it will take. So this is the way we do, and we try to find out which is the longest path and which is the shortest path. So how much time will it take, or what will be the maximum and minimum time within which this project can be completed, means within which a project manager can reach from event 1 to event 10. Now, Pert offers a management tool which relies on arrow and node diagrams. These are arrows and these are nodes. So, if you look into these circles, these are nodes and these are arrows. Node diagrams of activities and events. So, arrows represent activities, and these nodes, these circles, they represent events. Arrows represents the activities or the work necessary to reach the events or nodes that indicate each completed phase of the total project. So once you reach from 1 to 2, one phase of the project is completed. Then you reach from 2 to 3, then your second phase is completed. So this is how it is drawn into a diagram using Pert chart. Pert and CPM are complementary tools because CPM employs one-time estimation and one cost estimation for each activity. Pert may utilize three-time estimates: optimistic, expected, and pessimistic. So we'll discuss these things more in detail. What are the three-time estimates? And no cost of each activity. Although these are distinct differences, the term PERT is applied increasingly to all the critical path scheduling. I won't say PERT and CPM are different techniques. In fact, they are complementary to each other, because what you do is you draw these network diagrams depicting various events which are to be completed before we complete the project, and then we will try to find out what is the longest path. What is the longest path? And then we finally end up, for example, in this diagram, if you calculate the number of days to be taken, it is this path marked in red: 1, 2, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is the path which is a critical path because it is the longest path, and we have to crash this part. We have to shorten this path. So this is how CPM and PERT works. Now, events and activities. In PERT diagram, the main building block is the event with connections to its known predecessor events and successor events. Those circle blocks are events, and predecessor events means the event coming before any event, and successor means any event coming after that event. PERT event, a point that marks the start or completion of one or more activities. It consumes no time and uses no resources. When it marks the completion of one or more activities, it is not reached, it does not occur until all of the activities leading to that event have been completed. So, for example, for moving from 1 to 2, there are n number of activities. Then, if you complete n minus 1, then that event is not marked as completed, that process is not marked as completed. Rather, all the n activities should be completed to um, uh, um, mark that as the completed one. Now, let us talk about, besides event, but also knows activities and sub-activities. Sorry, let us discuss about predecessor event. Predecessor event, an event that increasingly precedes some other event without any other event intervening. An event can have multiple predecessor events and can be predecessor of multiple events. So there can be multiple events, predecessor to an event, or a multiple event successor to an event. Successor event, an event that immediately follows some other event without any other intervening event. An event can have multiple successor events and can be successor of multiple events. Besides event, PERT also knows activities and sub-activities. PERT activity, the actual performance of the task which consumes time and require resources such as labor, material, space, machinery. It can be understood as representing the time, effort, and resources required to move from one event to another. The arrows represent the PERT activity. The PERT activity cannot be performed until the predecessor event has occurred. So, to complete any activity, the predecessor event should have been completed. Now, PERT sub-activity. A PERT activity can be further decomposed into a set of sub-activities. For example, activity A1 can be decomposed into A1.1, A1.2, A1.3. Sub-activities have all the properties of the activities. In particular, a sub-activity has a predecessor or successor events, just like an activity. An activity can be decomposed again into finger-grained sub-activities. So, all the activities, they are composed of various sub-activities. Now, let us look at that into that diagram. For example, if you want to move from 2 to 3, then this 2 and 3 in circle, they are events. And this arrow, which marks a big B, is activity. And it takes 20 days to move from event 2 to event 3. Now, this B can comprise of various sub events, like sub activities like B1, B2, B3, to complete 20 days, to be completed in 20 days. So all these activities are to be completed simultaneously or in a sequence, but they all should be completed within 20 days. Time. PERT has different four types of time required to accomplish an activity. Optimistic time, the minimum possible time required to accomplish an activity or a path, assuming everything proceeds better than the normally expected. So, optimistic time is the minimum possible time, pessimistic time is the maximum possibility time, most likely time is the best estimate of the time required to accomplish an activity, and expected time is the best estimate of the time required to accomplish an activity or a path, accounting for the fact that things don't always proceed as normal. And there may be some tolerance which can be given to most likely time to get to expected time. Standard deviation of the time, the variability of the time for accomplishing an activity or a path. So how much time can vary? For example, an event can be completed in an activity can be completed within 18 to 20 minutes. So 18 to 20 minutes as a range within which this has to be completed. Now, management tools. PERT supplies a number of tools for management with determination of concepts such as float or slack. Float or slack is a measure of excess time and resources available to complete a task. It is the amount of time that a project task can be delayed without causing a delay in any subsequent tasks. Free float or a whole project, whole total float. Positive slack would indicate ahead of the schedule. Positive slack means you're ahead of the schedule. Negative slack would indicate behind the schedule, and zero slack would indicate on schedule. Critical path, the longest possible continuous pathway taken from initial event to the terminal event. It determines the total calendar time required for the project, and therefore, any time delays along the critical path will delay the reaching of the terminal event by at least the same amount. Critical activity, an activity that has a total float equal to zero. So when any activity has total float equal to zero, it is called as critical activity. An activity with zero float is not necessarily on the critical path, since its path may not be the longest. So there can be an activity which has zero float, and that is the critical activity. Lead time, the time by which a predecessor event must be completed in order to allow sufficient time for the activities that must elapse before the specific PERT event reaches completion. So, lead time is the time within which the predecessor event must be completed in order to allow sufficient activities for the coming activities. Then, lag time, the time earliest time by which a successor event can follow a specific PERT event. Fast tracking, performing more critical activities in parallel. So what you do is to complete an activity, you can take up more critical activities, and you can try to complete those critical activities parallelly at the same time, and that is known as fast tracking the project. Critical cache crashing critical paths, so shortening duration of the critical activities. So what we normally do is we identify the critical path and we try to crash the critical path by shortening the duration of the critical activities. Let us move to CPM. We already discussed this in part, but let us discuss it again. Critical path method is a major project management technique that requires mapping out everyday tasks that is necessary to complete a project. It includes identifying the amount of time necessary to finish each activity and the dependencies of each activity on any others. Also known as a critical path method, is used to set a realistic deadline for a project and to track its progress along the way. Critical path is the longest path in the network diagram. We already discussed this in detail. So if you want to find out this one, then from start to end, this red one, this from this activity A to D, then F, then I, this is critical path because this is taking the longest time. And this is start and end, and these are marked by normal activities. What is difference between PERT and CPM? CPM is activity oriented, PERT is event oriented. So when we are talking about CPM, we always talk about the activity which is longest, and PERT is of something where we draw events and we try to move from one event to another. Time estimates are of fair degree of accuracy. Time estimates are not that accurate because it is event oriented, so event it does not consume time, and activities, they do consume time. So in CPM, time estimates are of fair degree of accuracy because time becomes very important very important concept when it comes to CPM. Deterministic approach, and this is probabilistic approach. This tries to find out the actual time required to complete the project, and that is why this is deterministic approach, and this works on the probability. Cost is governing factor. Here, time is governing factor. Project duration is fixed and cost is minimum. Cost is cost is directly proportional to the time. Critical path, which joins critical activities, and her critical path here critical path is path which joins the critical events. So because this is event oriented, this is related to activity. Now let us look into the meaning. PERT is a project management technique used to manage uncertain activities of the of a project. CPM is a statistical technique of project management that manages well-defined activities of the project. So here things are more defined in CPM because the time is a main constant and activities are the base. Here events are the base. A technique of planning and control of time, a method of control cost and time. So here planning and control of time is important. Here cost control and time is important. This is event oriented, this is activity oriented. Evolved as research and development project, it evolved as construction project. Probabilistic model, this is deterministic model. It focuses on time, cost trade-off. So time and cost both it focuses on. Then estimates, three time estimates and one time estimate. Appropriate for high precision time estimate and reasonable time estimate. Management of unpredictable activities and predictable activities. Nature of job, non-repetitive nature, repetitive nature. Critical path and non-critical activities, no differentiation, differentiated. Suitable for research and development project, non-research projects like civil construction, shipbuilding, etc. So in CPM, wherever the time becomes very important, the activities become very important than event, then CPM is more important and reliable than PERT. Now let us talk about the third method, which is brainstorming. Brainstorming is a group activity technique by which efforts are made to find a conclusion for a specific problem by gathering a list of ideas spontaneously contributed by its members. In other words, brainstorming is a situation where a group of people meet to generate new ideas and solutions around a specific domain of interest by removing inhibitions. People are able to think more freely and they suggest as many spontaneous new ideas as possible. All the ideas are noted down without criticism, and after the brainstorming session, the ideas are evaluated. The term was populated by A. F. Osborne in 1967 book Applied Imagination. What are the four characteristics for what is brainstorming? Actually, in brainstorming, what happens? Sometimes, for example, there's a problem. Then a lot of people concerning that problem, they come together, they sit in a room, and they just express what can be the possible solution without prejudice to what can be implemented and what cannot be implemented. So they are not judged on the basis of views they express. Their views are welcomed without prejudice to the judgment which can be given on the basis of the views they express. So the four characteristics of brainstorming: focus on quantity, a lot of ideas, all the ideas are promoted. Quality is not important. Piggy banking, other people ideas, they are built on, so you can take someone else's idea and you can make your own ideas. Freewheeling, be willing to share even impractical ideas. Don't judge people on the basis of the ideas they share. Just be willing to share even impractical ideas if you have any. The non-evaluation, avoid giving feedback to ideas, positive or negative. So don't give feedback. Principles of brain storming: quantity over quality, withhold criticism, don't criticize, don't judge people on the basis of the ideas they give. Let them give ideas freely. Welcome the crazy ideas, don't stop crazy ideas. Even if the ideas are impractical, they should be welcomed. Combine, refine, and improve ideas. So this is how brainstorming works. Brainstorming, what is the importance? It allows people to think more freely without fear of judgment. Brainstorming encourages open and ongoing collaboration to solve problems and generate innovative ideas. Brainstorming helps team to generate a large number of ideas quickly, which can be refined and merged to create the ideal solution. Brainstorming allows team to reach conclusion by consensus, leading to a more well-rounded and better informed path forward. Brainstorming helps team members feel more comfortable bouncing ideas off one another even outside of the structured session. Brainstorming introduces different perspectives and opens the door to out of the box innovations. Brainstorming helps team members to get ideas out of their heads and into the world where they can be expanded upon, refined, and put into the action. Brainstorming is great for the building team. No one person has the ownership over the results, enabling an absolute team effort. So it promotes team efforts. Now, work breakdown structure. It is very easy. Work breakdown structure is a deliverable oriented hierarchical decomposition of the work to be executed by the project team to accomplish the project objectives and create the required deliverables. So, what actually we do is we break the project into various kinds of deliverables, in which, for example, here this project has been divided into four tasks: task 1, 2, 3, and 4. And these tasks then they are divided into subtasks. And we then try to complete these subtasks and thereby completing task 1, 2, 3, 4, and finally completing the project. So we break down the project into work breakdown structures. It offers a graphical symbol for all the parts of the project, provide a live view for administration and team members into how the entire project is developing, defines specific and measurable outcomes, breaks the work into manageable chunks, provides a way to make positive experiences in the recurring sequences, make a ground for accessing costs and distributing human and other resources, ensures no overlap and no gap in responsibility on resources, minimizes the chances of adding items outside the scope of the work or getting a critical deliverables. Now let us talk about Gantt chart. Gantt chart or harmonogram is a type of bar chart that illustrates a project schedule. This chart lists the tasks to be performed on the vertical axis and time interval on the horizontal axis. So these are the time intervals and these are the tasks to be performed. Tasks to be performed are on the y-axis and time frame is in the x-axis. The width of the horizontal bars in the graph show the duration of the activity. So the width of these bars, it shows the duration it will take to complete this activity. For example, in this diagram, planning will be done from mid of Jan to mid of March. It will take approximately 2 months to complete the planning process. That is how it works. It is named after the inventor Henry Grant, who designed such a chart around the years 1910, 1915. Modern Gantt chart also shows the dependency relationship between the activities and current schedule status. Now, what is the importance of Gantt chart? It helps to know what's going on in your project, improved communication and team cohesion, avoid resource overload, measure the progress of the project, see overlapping activities and task dependencies, experience more clarity, practice better than management, work with remote team members and motivate them. So once you share your Gantt chart, then everyone knows what has to be done when, and then they're ready to work their part. Create a sense of accountability, because wherever the time frame increases, that leads to the accountability of the managers heading that process. Then boost flexibility. So if you look into this anatomy of the Gantt chart, you will find out these are the timelines and these are the activities. Vertical line, red lines, they indicate current dates. So these are current dates. Arrows, they show how tasks are dependent on one another. So how, for example, in this one, this task will be done, then this task will be done, then this task will be done, and finally that event will be completed. Milestone shows the due date of the project or the end of the important project phase. Bar colors, you can make bar colorful and show full duration of the task. So bars show the full duration of the task. Next one is fishbone diagram. Fishbone diagram, or it is also known as Ishikawa diagram, is a cause and effect diagram that helps managers to track down the reasons for imperfections, variations, defects, or failures. The diagram looks just like a fish skeleton with a problem as its head. So this is the problem. For example, a burger making firm, it has made bad burgers. Then what they will do, this is the effect, and they will analyze why bad burgers are made. And a skeleton with its problem at its head and the causes for the problem feeding into the spine. So these spines, they are the causes. So it is cause and effect diagram. That is why it is known as cause and effect diagram. It is also known as Ishikawa diagram or fishbone diagram. Advantages: highly visual brainstorming tool which can spark further examples of root cause. You understand what are the problems, why you had bad effect. Quickly identify if the root cause is found multiple times in the same or different causal tree. Allow one to see all causes simultaneously. All causes can be seen simultaneously at the same time. Good visualization for presenting issues to the stakeholders. It is easy to visualize. Disadvantage: complex defects might yield a lot of causes. So for example, there are complex defects happen, then these spines, they will be more and more and will lead to complexity of this diagram. Interrelationship between causes are not easily identifiable. There can be a lot of reasons of failure which are interrelated, and it becomes very difficult to find the interrelationships. Seventh one is smart goals. Smart goals are just whenever you're setting goals, it has to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. Specific, well-defined, clear, and unambiguous. Measurable with specific criteria that measure your progress towards accomplishment of the goal. Achievable, attainable, and not impossible to achieve. Realistic, within reach, realistic, and relevant to your life purpose. Timely, with a clearly defined timelines, including a stating date and target date. The purpose is to create urgency. So this is your goals should be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. Specific goals. What do you want to achieve in your idea of focus? That is very specific, meaning why. Then action, what steps to be taken. Realistic, how do you know that you can achieve this target? It has to be realistic. Timely, and by when do you want to achieve these goals. So smart goals is specific, meaningful, action oriented, realistic, and timely goals. Bar chart, they are similar to Gantt chart. You draw the bar charts, and bar charts you already know it is similar. We've used a lot of times when it comes to statistical analysis. And bar chart is a graphical tool that can be used to present data in a way that is easy to read, easy to understand, and provide the ability for easy comparison of all the provided data. It can be used to provide the project team and all of those looking for the project related information data from the individual schedule activities and work breakdown structure components. In a typical bar chart, also referred to as bar chart or the Gantt chart, named after H.L. Gantt, who published one of the first recorded bar chart in 1931, the first side of the chart displays the work breakdown structure components of the individual schedule activities. The dates in the question are placed along the top of the chart, and the activity durations are represented by date placed horizontal charts. So Gantt chart is also a type of bar chart. These bar charts can be color coded if necessary, or they can be filled in with patterns to allow for the cost for more cost effective printing in grayscale. Now, arrow diagrams, they're again very easy. You just connect activities with the arrows. The arrow diagram is defined as a process diagramming tool used to determine optimal sequence of events and their interconnectivity. It is used for scheduling and to determine the critical path through nodes. The arrow diagramming method shows the required order of the task in a project or process, the best schedule for the entire project, and the potential scheduling and resource problems and their solutions. The arrow diagram lets you calculate the critical path of the project, the flow of the critical steps where delays can affect the timing of the entire project and where additional resources can speed up the project. So it is very similar to PERT and CPM, what we have already gone, and this is the initial phase. This is just nascent arrow, PERT and CPM, the arrow diagram model. And the last one is the network analysis. Network analysis is a system which plans the project by analyzing the project activities. Projects are broken down into individual tasks or activities which are arranged in a logical sequence. So first we break down the project into individual tasks and activities, and you make them into logical sequence. It is also decided that that which task will perform simultaneously and which other subsequently, sequentially. A network diagram is prepared, which presents visually the relationship between all the activities involved and the cost for the different activities. Network analysis helps designing, planning, coordinating, controlling, and in decision making in order to accomplish the project economically and a minimum available time and the limited available resources. The network analysis fulfills the objectives of reducing total time, cost, idle resources, interruptions, and conflicts. So, the two major types of network analysis are performance evaluation review technique, that is PERT, and CPM, critical path method. Project planning, that is the last topic of this unit. Project planning, it includes project initiation, project planning, project execution, project closure. Project initiation, you have to set your goals, and goals should be smart. The smart goals are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Then execution of the project should be done, and while executing you have to also make sure that you control the project well so that you achieve the desired results. And finally, project closure with a post-mortem activity with a fishbone diagram, that where the fault has happened, and that is how we try to improve on whatever faults and whatever wrongs we have done during the project implementation. And finally, we prepare final project report and we submit it to the management. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this session, and please go through all these video lectures. Thanks a lot, students. Thank you.